Tuanku, are you allowed to talk about politics? Sebab kita,
why am I
kita
not allowed?
dibiasakan.
Okay, I know,
Cakap,
but why?
Raja ni above politics.
I know, but why am I not allowed to talk about politics?
Tak adalah, patut ingat this is some convention kalangan raja, jangan sentuh politik, raja
For
above
me,
politics.
no, jangan get involved in politics. Tetapi dalam segi pengetahuan ataupun pandangan, it's okay. I mean, I'm also a citizen of this country. Kenapa orang lain boleh bercakap dengan pandangan mereka, memberi pandangan mereka dengan situasi politik, tetapi saya tidak boleh? So for me, I don't agree with that.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh dan selamat datang ke episod khas Keluar Sekejap bersama dengan saya KJ.
Saya Syaril Hamdan.
Hari ini adalah episod yang sangat-sangat istimewa, Syaril.
Betul.
Episod yang dinanti-nantikan sebenarnya sebab dah ada
berbulan-bulan dah.
Anticipation
dia.
Expectation sebenarnya. Dan hari ini kita sangat bertuah dan dapat jemputan dan juga dapat perkenan ke bawah duli yang amat mulia, Major General Tengku Ismail Ibni Sultan Ibrahim, Tengku Mahkota Johor. How are you, sir?
Good, thank you for having me.
Terima kasih. Terima kasih.
How you guys been?
Alhamdulillah, tuanku, sangat-sangat teruja dan excited untuk episod kali ini. Yeah. Sebenarnya Syaril risau sebab dia tak tahu tuanku nak cakap apa hari ni.
I will try my best to be as diplomatic as I can, which is not me lah. But anyway, I mean we can talk about anything kan.
Yeah.
Easy going. It's
kita
easy going.
Podcast kita ni free flowing. So.
I know.
Dan,
to me is the best. It's the best, one of the best platform because you can discuss about anything regarding situasi dalam negara, agenda, vision and whatnot. So I really like it. It's not too formal. It's more laid back. So congrats, I think you guys are doing well.
Terima kasih tuanku.
Terima kasih,
dan
tuanku.
Sebelum ni pun tuanku, antara tetamu yang pernah datang ke Keluar Sekejap, selain daripada tokoh-tokoh politik yang sewaktu pilihan raya negeri, ada juga mungkin individu-individu yang mungkin tuanku sendiri pernah melihat perkembangan kerjaya mereka. Datuk Seri Azmin Ali, Menteri Besar Selangor, iaitu anak kelahiran Johor, Menteri Besar Kedah,
Johor Pontian.
Yang orang Pontian, Menteri Besar Kedah.
Very unique guy.
Unique guy.
The Kedah guy.
Yeah. But anyway, sir, we're happy to have tuanku on the show. Tuanku mungkin Batik boleh mula, KJ boleh mula dengan soalan yang mudah, yang mudah tetapi yang susah untuk dijawab.
Right.
Tuanku dikenali dengan 3 huruf saja, TMJ.
Right.
Bukan hanya di Johor, di Malaysia, malah seantero dunia dengan penglibatan dalam dunia bola sepak dan sebagainya. Yeah. Who is TMJ?
Well, I'm a military man. Saya buat latihan, tak silap saya punya latihan askar yang paling lama in my family, 8 tahun. Daripada umur 18 tahun. Who is TMJ? Wow, this is going to be very interesting. Someone who is very honest, upfront. I like to be very straightforward because saya rasa you don't get many character nowadays dalam dunia yang begitu, bukan nak kata lantang tetapi more straightforward. I don't like to mengular. Bila cakap sesuatu saya suka very direct. I prefer to be direct. That is me. But someone who also care about Johor a lot about Johor. Keputusan-keputusan even di federal level yang mana melibatkan meletakkan negara kita di dalam any situasi for that matter, because it will whatever decision is made in federal level, it will overspill kepada negeri saya dan juga rakyat saya. So banyak orang cakap Tengku raja tak boleh get involved with politics and all that. I'm not involved with politics, tetapi macam rakyat biasa juga, saya juga berhak untuk memberi pandangan saya ataupun my opinion. So that's it. That is me. I like to be very, very upfront and straightforward.
Kalau tuanku ada satu nilai hidup, life value, what would it be?
Well, integrity.
Integrity.
Once, I can't be bought. Because that's how I grew up. Saya tengok ayahanda saya. Saya tengok atuk saya, almarhum Sultan Iskandar, that was him. Dia punya nilai jati diri dia tu, that if he say no is no, it's non-negotiable, can't be compromised. I like to be that. I like to be as real as possible. Betul terang.
Tuanku, tidak seperti KJ Patik tak pernah ada privilege untuk berjumpa dengan tuanku ni kali pertama. Jadi seperti rakyat lain juga mungkin melihat daripada jauh, dan banyak persepsi, banyak tanggapan yang barangkali tak semuanya tepat berkenaan dengan tuanku. Bagaimana tuanku mengurus persepsi baik dan kurang baik, dan bagaimana memastikan you are relatable kepada rakyat Johor dan juga keseluruhan?
Well, you see, saya saya tak nak macam, I don't need to explain who I am or what is my pandangan ke apa benda ke. Kalau orang ada persepsi benda yang tak begitu bagus terhadap saya, itu terpulang kepada mereka. Because in the end of the day, saya tahu niat saya ikhlas apabila saya beri pandangan ataupun bila saya membuat sesuatu. Everything is ikhlas daripada hati saya. Bukan untuk kepentingan saya ataupun any, I don't have any personal agenda. So what I do is, I like to be, like I said, I like to be straightforward. Apabila kadang-kadang, apabila kita terlampau straightforward sangat, tak ramai orang yang selesa. But I prefer it to be that way so that rakyat saya know who I am. So saya bukan orang yang suka berselindung. I like to be just very upfront that is saya. So, and then if you look where I grew up, mungkin tak ramai yang tahu, saya grew up with my friends and kids in Lakin, in Kampung Melayu.
Tuanku pergi sekolah kebangsaan kan?
Yeah, saya pergi St. Joseph. I was in St. Joseph. I was in Sri Utama also, before studying in Australian International School in Singapore. So yeah, I grew up with the people. You don't see me in Kuala Lumpur.
Yeah.
I'm not in KL.
Yeah.
I have bukan saya tak suka Kuala Lumpur. It's just that I don't know. I grew up here with the people. Saya di setiap daerah, di Mersing.
Tuanku masih lagi in touch dengan kawan-kawan daripada usia muda.
Of course. Saya masih in touch some, and we still hang out most of the time dengan anak yang orang di stable yang jaga kuda and all. That is where I grew up.
Yeah.
So I never grew up with so-called the elites or high society. I'm always with the people. Itu pasal when I serve them, orang kata kalau kita cubit pihak kiri ni, pihak kanan terasa. So that when I see certain thing which is not right, and my people is affected, of course I react. I tend to react.
Actually tuanku, kalau can pick up on that, barangkali ramai yang akan menganggap bahawa dengan latar belakang tuanku susah untuk memahami denyut nadi rakyat biasa, tapi mendengar penjelasan tuanku tidak sebegitu. Maybe you can share some details.
Saya never grew up in the istana. Ke bawah duli tuanku lepaskan saya grew up in rumah Pak Haji Selamat. Pak Haji Selamat is imam di surau di stable, Istana Pasir Pelangi. I grew up with him. Subuh dengan dia sampai ke malam, saya balik rumah tidur je. And ke bawah duli tuanku is hardly around because he's always working, pergi daerah-daerah dan seterusnya. He's always on the ground. And my mom is a normal housewife, very simple lady. And I think she's done well. She's the only one that she's the pillar of the house lah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so I grew up with Pak Islamat, with macam contoh Cik Jabbar from Majidi. So I grew up in dia punya rumah-rumah mereka. So I live in their house. So of course, that is how saya boleh relate. Saya tak kekok apabila awak boleh letak saya di mana-mana di dalam negeri Johor. Saya tak kekok untuk berbual dengan rakyat because I speak their lingo.
Saya tahu jawapan ni, tapi mungkin tuanku nak share. What was your first car, tuanku?
My first car is a Kancil. My first car is a Kancil. JBL 2.
Ada lagi?
Ada. Saya simpan in top condition. And my second car selepas saya finish my young officers course di Pulada. My father was so proud and I ada upgrade sikit lah, Perdana V6. and I still keep that car.
Masa tu hebat tu, Perdana V6.
Oh yes.
Tuanku dah sentuh pasal Pulada. Patik nak sentuh about your military background.
Yeah.
I think sebab Patik dah kenal tuanku agak lama. Dan sebagai seorang yang dah kenal tuanku agak lama, I think your military experience is very important to you.
Of course.
Dan selepas Pulada, tuanku telah pergi ke Indian Military Academy di Dehradun. Tuanku, so why Dehradun? I mean, ramai yang pergi Sandhurst, yang pergi UK. Well, you went to India?
I think my grandfather at that time nak saya betul-betul go through the real deal. In India, there is no special treatment. Kalau kita fail kita punya test, is RTU lah, return to unit. So kalau di sana is a bit of more diplomacy sikit, maybe under what do you call it, SCO entry, Special Commission Officer. It's more of a diplomacy. So my grandfather tak nak saya dapat the same treatment, dia nak saya go through the proper meal. And then in India is very competitive. And also because ada sejarah di Indian Military Academy, Tun Hussein On pun ke situ when he was a Johor Military Force Cadet dengan Tun Ibrahim. Both were Johor Military Force Cadet who was trained in Indian Military Academy in Dehradun. So sejarah tu dah ada. And that's why my grandfather sent me there. 6 years. 2 years cadet, 4.5 years serving the 61st Cavalry in Jaipur.
Yep.
Yeah. Sebelum tu di sini lah. Sebelum tu latihan di sini. And then the story was not over. Saya balik. I was in Johor Military Force. Balik semula time tu. I was the 2IC. Then I saw how Johor Military Force was run. I was quite frustrated because we were still old school sangat dalam segi kebolehan tentera-tentera kami. And I changed the module, I changed the organisation chart, termasuk dengan latihan-latihan dan senjata. Because I was studying about the ceremonial army, which is the Swiss Guard in Vatican Church.
Yeah.
So they are ceremonial, same like us, kita ceremonial. Tetapi they are all special forces. So saya nak our soldiers to be the same, to be special forces in terms of the orang punya kebolehan. And so I changed and I put it compulsory. And the first unit, the first group that was sent was 20, termasuk saya sekali. We were the first unit to go kepakaran gerak khas. And then until today, Johor Military Force semua sekali is compulsory to have a Special Forces Commando punya training. So I changed that when I was 26 years old.
Yeah.
26 years old, other 26 years old, what were they doing?
Tuanku, sebelum kita pergi lanjut tentang peranan tuanku di dalam Askar Timbalan Setia Negeri Johor.
Yeah.
Back to Dehradun, sir. Yeah. Tuanku diberi penghormatan untuk lead
the Indian,
dalam masa hari
Republic
kebangsaan,
Day Parade.
Hari kebangsaan di depan Presiden India.
Yeah.
What was that like for you, sir?
It was a great honor.
Yeah.
I didn't understand why, actually. So usually the process is they will send few officers from 61st Cavalry, because the 61st Cavalry and the President's Bodyguard, which is both cavalry unit in the Indian Army, is directly under the President. We're not under the Ministry of Defence. We are under the President directly. So masa nama-nama officer yang mana yang dah ada pencapaian, my pencapaian at that time was polo. So he picked me. Then he was told by the chief of army, sorry sir, this boy he's not Indian, he's Malaysian. And he said, as far as I'm concerned, he's serving the Indian Army, so he's considered as Indian, and I picked him for his accomplishment. And that is when saya led the parade. It was a great honor, but they had to sampai protes dalam parlimen. Because people say, hey, would you put an Indian, will Malaysia put an Indian army leading their Merdeka Day or something like that? So it became a big issue. So they had to put about 60 snipers on the roof. And I was saluting President Putin at the time.
Yeah. Oh, Putin was there?
Putin was there.
Yeah.
Putin was the guest of honor.
Tuanku mounted lah on
I was mounted.
Yeah.
I led the parade.
Yeah.
So it was a great honor for me.
Mungkin
But that was the first and last. Because first and last, so basically
first and
the
last
one,
orang asing?
Yeah. I mean, the only time it happened was Lord Mountbatten. So Lord Mountbatten was the first one and I was the last lah kira.
And that was a different circumstance.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Tak mungkin bukan hanya rakyat di India tapi rakyat di Malaysia pun tidak tahu tentang keunikan apa yang dilalui dalam konteks itu. Is it normal for?
It's not normal, but I was serving the Indian Army at that time. So it was a very special thing that they give that leniency kepada saya, kehormatan itu untuk to serve them, train under them and serve them. But it helped me a lot. To be honest, saya cakap saya bertuah dan saya bersyukur that I'm in the army. I think it saved my life because dia membentukkan saya punya karakter. And saya betul-betul bersyukur kepada Duli Yang Maha Mulia tuanku and my almarhum atuk saya. Without them, I don't think I'll be here today like how I am. You know.
Tuanku, coming to Askar Timbalan Setia, tuanku sebagai pegawai pemerintah sekarang, you're the commanding officer, CEO of JMF. Kebawah Duli Sultan sebagai komandan JMF, dan seperti mana yang mungkin yang tahu-tahu, ramai yang tak tahu, keluarga Diraja Johor ada hubungan istimewa dengan grup gerak khas dengan Special Forces kita, peranan Kebawah Duli. Tuanku, mungkin pertamanya nak cerita, sebab ramai tertanya kenapa Johor ada askar sendiri, sebab soal militeri ni dalam perlembagaan persekutuan is a federal thing. Kenapa Johor ada askar dia?
Well, that's our history. Oleh kerana, I mean, we were there independent as an independent state since 1885 daripada 1885. Dan juga kita ada askar kita sendiri. Apabila kita join Malaysia about 1948, kita ada Federation Agreement, and one of that Federation Agreement, perjanjian tersebut adalah kita would like to keep our army. And then ada perjanjian di mana but they were, tugas mereka adalah ceremonial purpose saja, to jaga keluarga diraja and the palace and what not. But of course the role mereka masih boleh diserapkan to the Malaysian Armed Forces jikalau terjadi sesuatu kepada negara dengan perjanjian atas perkenan Kebawah Duli tuanku. Mana they can be seconded to the Malaysian Army.
Dan sekarang ni di bawah tuanku ada modernisation, semua ada latihan gerak khas.
All latihan komando. I boost the equipment as well. So yeah, that is where we are today. Itu pasal lah Johor ada askar sendiri. Oleh kerana like Kebawah Duli always said, which is quite controversial, that we don't belong to Malaysia, we are partners. He always say that. So.
Dan maybe the last thing on JMF sir, is that macam tuanku katalah, dalam keadaan perang, for instance, you know, nauzubillah kalau berlaku perang, then dengan perkenan Kebawah Duli, the JMF will be absorbed into the MAF, Malaysian Armed Forces. That is the understanding that we have with the Malaysian Army.
That's a good segue to the context of how we're meeting today.
Yeah, why not, Syaril?
Kenyataan kontroversi yang tuanku kongsikan tadi, sebab penonton kita semua akan sedar kita berjumpa ni pada sehari selepas pemilihan Kebawah Duli tuanku Sultan Johor untuk insyaAllah ditabalkan pada 1 bulan Februari, akhir bulan Januari.
Tahniah tuanku. Tahniah.
Dalam konteks itu, kita banyak bercakap dan tuanku sendiri banyak bercakap tentang negeri Johor. I'm sure go back to bangsa Johor at some point. Bagaimana mengubah ataupun evolusi pemandangan dan pemikiran itu dalam konteks Malaysia sekarang? Kerana it's no longer just about Johor for you or your family.
Of course. I mean, saya rasa Kebawah Duli tahu benda itu sangat jelas. Ini adalah tugas tanggungjawab untuk negara, bukan saja Johor. But you see, whatever keputusan-keputusan yang dibuat ataupun polisi yang Kebawah Duli ada agenda tersebut, benda tu pun akan memberi manfaat kepada negeri Johor juga dan juga negeri-negeri lain dengan cara tak langsung. So I mean, it's a big responsibility. He is very clear about his agenda. He always say something about restoring the order. Kerana dengan situasi-situasi yang kurang stabil dalam negara, so nak memberi lebih kestabilan kepada negara, jadi kita boleh membantu apabila benda itu jadi a domino effect dalam segi for the economy, dan dengan cara tak langsung benda itu akan membantu rakyat-rakyat semua yang dalam negara ini. So that Kebawah Duli ada dia punya plan that dia nak bekerjasama ataupun memberi share pendapat dan pandangan kepada Perdana Menteri. So we'll see. I think it will be orang kata very interesting times.
Tuanku, Kebawah Duli Sultan, again, persepsi, sebab kita banyak cakap soal persepsi. Bila diumumkan Kebawah Duli telah pun dipilih sebagai Yang Tuan Agong yang akan datang, banyak komen yang kata, bagus, kita akan dapat Agong yang tegas, yang strict, yang firm. Tuanku sendiri kenal Kebawah Duli bukan hanya sebagai seorang pemerintah, seorang sultan, tapi seorang ayah. What kind of Agong do you think Kebawah Duli will be?
No nonsense. That is him. Kebawah Duli tuanku ni, he's very like macam saya jugalah. So dia tegas, very understanding, tegas. Tetapi like I said, no nonsense. When it comes to the national punya best interest, I don't think he will budge in terms of the best interest of the nation. So untuk kepentingan dan apa saja kebaikan untuk negara, saya rasa Kebawah Duli akan pegang kepada prinsip itu. Itu adalah keutamaan pertama Kebawah Duli tuanku.
Ya. Tuanku, saya tak pasti pendengar kita tahu ke tidak, dan correct me if I'm wrong, sir. Tapi logo JDT ada 3 bintang di atas. Ramai yang tanya 3 bintang itu piala apa? Sebab kalau kita tengok apa pasukan kebangsaan, dia letak bintang berdasarkan kemenangan World Cup dan sebagainya. Tapi saya difahamkan tuanku, 3 bintang itu adalah Kebawah Duli, Tuanku Sultan, tuanku sendiri sebagai TMJ dan almarhum. Betul ke tak tuanku?
Yes, because I was known, my call sign was Johor 3 at that time. So that represent me, the 3. So Kebawah Duli tuan almarhum, someone who I really hormat, admire and love. Sama juga macam Kebawah Duli tuanku. Dan saya. And plus 3 has always been my lucky number. Since I was a kid. Polo main nombor 3. Everything I do, I want it to be a hat-trick. Kan? Jadi, so that is the 3 bintang. It's not about title. It's more representing almarhum atuk saya, Kebawah Duli tuanku and myself.
Tuanku, kalau boleh kita kembali balik pada soalan Malaysia dan Johor ni.
Yeah. It is a very unique relationship. Dan juga perjanjian-perjanjian yang ada. Right? So,
but what is your feeling for Malaysia?
My
your loyalty and your feeling beyond just Johor, like your.
Well, you see, loyalty and love, 100%, of course. My priority sebagai saya dilahirkan sebagai Tunku Mahkota Johor, tanggungjawab saya adalah untuk memikul berdasarkan dengan pengorbanan saya di dalam serving my people untuk negeri Johor. But sudah tentu, we are in Malaysia. Kita pun nak tengok benda yang bagus berlaku di dalam negara. Kerana itu akan memberi manfaat kepada semua pihak. Bukan saja negeri Johor, kepada semua negeri yang ada dalam Malaysia. Sudah tentu. So, my feeling for Malaysia, I want it to change. In terms of what? Okay, let's say now, we spoke just now about education.
Yeah.
Pendidikan. Saya rasa we should somehow improve kita punya sistem pendidikan kita. The syllabus of education in this country. Because today, whatever problem you see, all bermula daripada situ. Lack of education. Jadi apabila kita ada rakyat, saya nak tengok rakyat saya bijak, boleh fikir dengan cara rasional apabila mereka membuat satu penilaian. So they have to have that asas. Bukan senang sangat terpengaruh, senang sangat percaya, senang sangat memikir ikutkan emosi. I want them to fikir pakai minda mereka sendiri. You see? So that is why di Johor, jikalau Kebawah Duli tuanku jadikan saya pemangku raja, my first agenda will be untuk minta some leniency and support daripada kerajaan persekutuan supaya kami boleh somehow manage dan menaikkan lagi mutu pendidikan yang ada dalam negara. Dalam negeri Johor. And
some autonomy, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. So because why? Saya nak tengok orang-orang yang lebih layak berkhidmat dalam kerajaan saya ataupun in the private sectors in Johor, because all this will lead to membantu dengan cara tak langsung the economy as well. So this is what I want. I want to see more people yang qualified running this country. Okay, bukan berdasarkan seniority tetapi merit. And that's why I hope you two will go back to UMNO.
Sorry sir. Tapi balik kepada, saya nak kaitkan semua ni lah sebelum kita take a break sir. Waktu almarhum Sultan Iskandar naik takhta sebagai Yang Tuan Agong, Kebaduli Sultan dipilih sebagai pemangku waktu itu, dan almarhum pada waktu itu berdepan dengan Perdana Menteri Dr. Mahathir.
Oh yes.
It was an interesting relationship. Tetapi saya rasa
both very strong personalities.
Very strong characters.
Exactly.
Dan tetapi ada penghormatan. Dan Dr. Mahathir had a lot of respect for almarhum. Almarhum had to handle many things pada waktu itu.
Yes.
Dan Kebawah Sultan akan naik takhta sebagai agung dalam keadaan politik negara kita agak tidak stabil. Ya, walaupun stabil sekarang ni, tetapi kerajaan yang tidak dapat majoriti. Sebab itu saya tanya tuanku tadi, expectation Kebawah sebagai seorang yang tegas. Tuanku rasa Kebawah akan mainkan peranan yang lebih hands on ke tidak sebagai agung?
I feel yes.
Okay.
What does that mean?
I feel macam mana contoh di negeri Johor, apa saja keputusan sebelum MB buat kena disemak oleh Kebawah tuanku dulu. Mengadap, brief. Dan dia akan memberi pandangan ikhlas dia di mana keutamaan itu diberikan untuk negeri Johor. Macam saya talk about Johor. I feel he is going to do the same thing. Saya rasa dia akan buat benda yang sama di federal level. I think he's going to be quite hands-on to have that perhubungan tertentu dengan Perdana Menteri. Share input, what he think is right, what he think is not right, what they should execute, bukan berdasar kepada merancang sahaja, and apa saja yang boleh membantu negara dalam segi ekonomi, kestabilan dan seterusnya. So whatever in the best interest of the nation, I think he's going to be very hands-on. That is apa yang saya punya pengalaman, tengok Kebawah tuanku di negeri Johor. Saya rasa benda yang sama akan berlaku di Kuala Lumpur.
Apa yang Patik tahu pasal Kebawah tuanku adalah he is very detail oriented.
Yes, very detailed. That could be my brother. That could be my brother. Okay, detail oriented in what way? What do you mean by that?
Bila Patik pernah ada peluang menghadap Kebawah bincang soal waktu menjadi Menteri Kesihatan, bincang soal hospital, bincang soal projek-projek pembangunan. Tuanku akan tanya detail tentang pembinaan tersebut.
Betul.
Dan tuanku tahu sangat tentang technical detail.
Exactly.
Tak boleh nak kelentong dengan bahasa mudah.
Jangan cakap pada pembangunan ataupun projek-projek saja. Semua. Daripada ke pokok, daripada ke baja, sampai ke
peralatan askar,
aeronautical, peralatan askar, weapon. His knowledge is superb. And saya sebagai anak bertuah dan belajarlah seberapa banyak yang boleh. And tuanku knows everything. You cannot lie. I mean, you cannot lie to tuanku. You cannot cheat him. He knows exactly everything. Also, he knows the system very, very well. So I think that is where I know that dia ada agenda dia tersendiri.
Okay.
Because tuanku ni dia bukan berdasarkan optik. He's more of I'm getting the job done. So he's more interested in that. He doesn't care about his optik. Same me. I don't care. So kami dikenali kalau di negeri Johor ni bukan saja berdasarkan merancang tetapi execute apabila kami ada perancangan. And I know tuanku is going to do the same thing dekat sana. In the federal level, 100%. And I think Prime Minister is going to have a tough time.
On that note, sir, kita akan break seketika dan kembali selepas ini. Okay. Selamat kembali ke episod khas Keluar Sekejap bersama dengan Duli Yang Amat Mulia Tengku Mahkota Johor, tuanku. Tadi kita dah bincang soal Kebawah Tuanku Sultan akan mengambil alih tugas sebagai Sri Paduka Baginda Yang di-Pertuan Agong pada hujung bulan Januari depan. InsyaAllah, jika Kebawah Duli berkenan tuanku sekali lagi dilantik sebagai pemangku, sebab tuanku dah sebelum ini beberapa kali.
I think this could be my fourth
Kali keempat
kali keempat jadi pemangku gajah.
Menjadi pemangku gajah di Johor, tapi kali ni 5 years insyaAllah, 5 tahun, bukan tempoh yang ringkas. So tuanku, what are you going to do?
First is I'm going to focus on the education. Lepas tu juga bekerja begitu keras dengan Kerajaan Persekutuan untuk membantu dalam meningkatkan negeri Johor punya infrastructure in the state. Contoh the highway, flood mitigation system untuk 3 daerah yang mana kerap banjir setiap tahun. Sampai saya pun naik malu setiap kali saya pergi jumpa sabar makcik, and I can see it in their eyes. Macam seolah-olah dalam hati dia, kau tiap tahun suruh aku sabar je. Tapi kerja tak ada juga. So, I mean, but that is beyond us, right? I mean, kita kena minta bantuan itu daripada Kerajaan Persekutuan. So, buat masa ni, it's in the pipeline of daerah Kota Tinggi, Batu Pahat dan juga Muar to ada flood mitigation. But like I said juga, saya want to monitor all schools, quality of teachers, program-program di sekolah, even sekolah agama. Yang mana yang tak ada permit, yang mana yang saya rasa not relevant ataupun tak ikut dengan silibus Sekolah Agama Negeri Johor, Majlis Agama Islam, baik tutup. So that is where I'll be looking at. So itu je lah.
Adakah tuanku rasa ada, bangsa Johor, kita belum lagi bincang bangsa Johor tuanku. Bangsa Johor is something so unique kepada negeri Johor. Dan ramai daripada luar Johor melihat di Semenanjung, Johor ni mempunyai satu karakteristik yang agak moderate, yang terbuka. Tuanku rasa risau ke tidak ada unsur-unsur yang lebih sempit, konservatif, ekstrim,
of course,
yang datang melalui sistem pendidikan juga, yang mengancam bangsa Johor ni?
Sudah tentu. And that is why saya cakap education is the most important, because that is the only way kita boleh mengelakkan ada that extremism punya mindset dalam negeri ni. Kalau nak tengok pada perpaduan antara rakyat bangsa orang Cina, India, Melayu di Johor ni, it's superb. And I want it to remain that way. That is the identity of bangsa Johor ni, the unity. And bola saya pun macam contoh, JDT pun created as one of the vehicle or one of the foundation asas Johor Darul Takzim Football Club ni is to promote our identity sebagai bangsa Johor, where we come from dan seterusnya. So that has always, of course saya risau because I monitor what's happening up north, what's happening dalam Malaysia. Kita tengok.
Dan contoh baru ni Palestine punya solidarity tu.
Yes, macam contoh semalam saya myself call Menteri Pendidikan dan juga Exco Pendidikan di Johor to monitor every single school, because I got images and report of certain school where the teacher themselves encourage young kids to carry weapon. Walaupun benda tu adalah mainan, bukan a real weapon, but what message are you trying to pass here? Apa yang kita mampu buat? Yes, what's happening today is a bit biased. Okay, there's double standard. Situasi Israel and Palestine. We all know that. Macam contoh isteri saya. She's very sad apabila tengok image. Tak ada manusia, a normal human being, will not be affected by those images. What they see is happening in Palestine.
Yeah.
Apa kami boleh buat? Saya contoh, saya tak adalah, like I said, I'm not a guy who focus lebih kepada optik. Saya suka lebih kepada execute and do something. Now, the thing we can do is sedekah, doa, and pray for the best. And of course, to membantu. Itu yang terbaik. You cannot do beyond that. You cannot go there and say, stop firing or what. That is another level lah. Negara-negara dengan all the leaders sebagai Perdana Menteri atau Presiden. But saya nak, kalau saya buat benda, saya nak tengok dengan kemampuan kami. Realistic. So macam contoh, the Johor Royal Family every year bagi at least almost about 200 million ringgit sumbangan kepada rakyat Johor. Peralatan hospital, duit untuk orang miskin dan juga makanan. And this is daripada dulu. Tetapi oleh kerana dunia yang we live in today, everything is berdasarkan kepada persepsi and optik. Orang ingat kita tak buat apa-apa kalau kita tak berkongsikan maklumat-maklumat ini. So sekarang ni, of course, you can see we are a bit more aggressive dalam social media platform Keluarga Diraja Johor, di mana kita kerap share berita-berita ni. Bukan nak menunjuk, tetapi takut orang dapat an idea that we are not doing anything. So this is sumbangan-sumbangan Keluarga Diraja Johor kepada rakyat Johor. For example, about the issue Palestine, I've been giving tabung kepada Majlis Agama Islam, beberapa percentage allocatekan untuk membantu memberi makanan, tilam, bantal, selimut apa benda kepada mangsa-mangsa di Palestine since 2013. Daripada 2013 saya dah memberi sumbangan kepada Palestin. So and that's it.
Yeah.
Tuanku, tadi sebelum break, Tuanku sama ada just said in jest maybe Prime Minister will have a tough time.
No, I'm not joking.
So, kalau Patik boleh follow up on that, so, boleh mendengar di sini pun boleh nampak betapa Tuanku passionate tentang beberapa isu infrastruktur, pendidikan, baik di negeri Johor ataupun Malaysia secara keseluruhannya. Bagaimana mengimbangi passion yang ada pada Tuanku ni dengan realiti bahawa Malaysia masih lagi sebuah negara demokrasi berparlimen. Jadi there's a line. How do you manage that line? You might do it slightly differently daripada mungkin yang lain, tetapi still there's a line that I think you recognize.
And to be frank, sir, the undang-undang tubuh kerajaan negeri dengan Perlembagaan Persekutuan agak berbeza. So how do you navigate this?
Well, apa pun kita buat, macam contoh di negeri Johor, we follow undang-undang tubuh kita yang dah existed begitu lama. Dan juga our rights and our federation agreement, macam contoh isu air, tanah, isu agama, that is all a state.
Of course.
Itu adalah federal guarantee to the state, to the state. Sebelum kita join Malaysia. Jadi I know there is a line, but you see, contoh perhubungan saya dengan Singapura, there is also a line there. It's another country. But look at what we are able to do between the two of us. Menggunakan macam contoh less of a red tape ataupun too official. Sama juga macam kalau dulu masa time Datuk Seri Najib, Kebahaduli Tuanku was quite close to Datuk Seri Najib, and he respect macam contoh apa-apa pembangunan di Johor, mesti go through Kebahaduli Tuanku. So to me, it is not more of that other line, it is more of how good is that relationship, perhubungan antara Perdana Menteri dan juga dengan Tuanku Sultan ataupun mana-mana Sultan. You see, with a good perhubungan, perhubungan yang baik dan juga bekerjasama in the best interest of the nation, I think banyak benda yang kami boleh capai. So that's it. I mean, of course ada you have protocol, you have line in certain things. Tetapi apabila you have a good relationship, I think there's a lot that can be done. Because in the end of the day, it won't benefit Kebahaduli Tuanku. It will benefit the people. So obviously the Prime Minister, siapa saja jadi Perdana Menteri, have to somehow take that seriously.
Tapi Tuanku rasa dalam tempoh Kebahaduli jadi agung, adakah ada expectation daripada Johor? Of course, Kerajaan Persekutuan dia akan cuba bagi secara adil dan saksama kepada semua negeri lah. Tetapi let's be real lah Tuanku. Setiap kali ada sultan dan raja yang naik takhta, dia ada expectation that something will happen, more will happen to the state.
Of course. Like for example, like I said, the infrastructure.
Macam banjir.
So of course kita nak tengok ada improvement dalam negeri. But you guys are asking me a lot of questions. What about I start asking you question pula? That's fair.
Let's go, sir. Let's go.
What do you think of Datuk Seri Anwar punya performance? My opinion, I think he has to execute more in making decision. And I don't know whether he has a good team ke tidak. I don't think he has a good team. Pandangan saya. Okay, I think memang niat nak membuat sesuatu tu ada. Okay, of course he wants to see the country do well. Itu sudah tentu. But I think he has to execute a little bit more, ataupun mesti ada a bit brave atau berani in terms of making decision. Tak boleh jaga hati semua orang. You have to make a decision what's best for the country. And sometimes if that being hated untuk membuat kita dibenci oleh kerana membuat keputusan apa yang baik untuk negara, sometimes you have to bite the bullet. That is pandangan saya. What about you guys? What do you think?
Batik, dalam 100 hari yang pertama Datuk Seri Anwar jadi PM, saya bagi dia markah B-. Saya bagi dia markah A- kot. B-. Right. Saya kata B- sebab permulaan yang okey, tidak ada satu siri kesilapan yang banyak lah, macam pernah berlaku sebelum ini. Tetapi pada waktu itu visi ekonomi tak jelas. Dia nak buat apa untuk ekonomi negara
kita. But YB,
kita.
you must also understand, he take the seat while country ni berhutang begitu banyak.
Betul. Betul. Tetapi namun demikian, Patik rasa at least at that time belum lagi ada vision yang jelas dia nak bawa ke mana. Lepas tu dia keluarlah ekonomi madani, industrial master plan, energy transition dan sebagainya. Okay. So sekarang ni persoalan dia adalah execution. Tuanku sendiri pernah kata vision without execution is hallucination. Jadi kalau jangan kita hallucination lah.
Exactly.
Jadi kita risau sekarang ni hallucination lah. Sebab dah sampai setahun tuanku. Dan walaupun plan dah ada, hala tuju dah ada, visi dah ada, perancangan dah ada, tetapi satu, of course, pasukan dia. Sampai hari ni tuanku, minta maaf Patik cakap lah openly, nak ganti menteri pun belum lagi.
Betul.
Almarhum Allahyarham Datuk Seri Salahuddin. It's been a couple of months already, sir. And still nothing. Dan kita melihat bahawa tough decisions dalam bajet dia tak nak buat. Patik tak tahu bila nak buat sebab dah ada clear 4 years until the next election. Kerajaan stabil. Kebawah akan naik takhta sebagai agung. Yang Kebawah has been very clear. Jangan nak tukar kerajaan. Dah bagi endorsement kepada PMX, but still timid bangku. Itu Patik rasa lah.
I think it's trying, maybe playing too safe, in my opinion.
Maybe kalau Patik boleh tambah tuanku, mungkin headline tu, the need to chase a good headline seems to be something yang penting untuk the whole cabinet. Jadi lebih daripada delivery, it's berapa banyak kita boleh umum minggu depan. Kalau minggu depan dah umum, minggu satu lagi apa lagi kita nak umum. So pengumuman tu menjadi the driving factor of it.
I see.
So the very, like we said on the flight, very performative
leadership.
Right.
Maybe not him as an individual, but the whole government as a whole.
That's what I see. Itulah pandangan saya.
So
dah masuk politik.
Dah termasuk politik dah.
But politics is a good talk. It is a good topic kerana it just shows how much we care. I mean,
sebelum tu
I can look the other way.
Tuanku, Patik nak tanya soalan asas. Tuanku, are you allowed to talk about politics? Sebab kita,
why am I not allowed?
Dibiasakan.
Okay, I know, but why?
Raja ni above politics.
I know, but why am I not allowed to talk about politics?
Tak adalah, Patik ingat this is some convention di kalangan raja, jangan sentuh politik, raja above politics.
No. Jangan get involved in politics. Tetapi dalam segi pengetahuan ataupun pandangan, it's okay. I mean, I'm also a citizen of this country. Kenapa orang lain boleh bercakap dengan pandangan mereka, memberi pandangan mereka dengan situasi politik, tetapi saya tidak boleh? So for me, I don't agree with that. Dan sistem beraja ni, kalau kita tengok pun ada deliver ataupun provide check and balance towards political situation in the country juga. And I feel that is very, very important. Because tak semua democracy works. Not in, you can see some country works, but mostly it doesn't. You can see in the Middle East. Tengok negara-negara di Middle East yang mana yang tak ada raja. Bandingkan dengan yang ada raja. You can see it is more stable. It is, dalam segi economy or policy in that sense. So for me, yes, it is important kerana kita provide a lot of check and balance. That is my opinion. Tetapi when we give pandangan, kalau you have your rights, orang lain pun ada hak masing-masing, saya rasa saya tak patut dikecualikan. Saya pun ada hak juga untuk memberi pandangan ke, ataupun idea ataupun what's my take on politics, and saya tak pernah rasa kekok ataupun takut nak cakap soal politik. Because before, kalau kita tengok in the generation yang lebih raja-raja yang lebih lama, of course it's like a taboo, you know, to speak about politics, because we're supposed to be above politics. Yes, we are above politics, tetapi you must also understand politicians serve the people. Apabila you see certain things not happening and di mana rakyat tak dapat that benefit, I mean, it is also our right to speak up ataupun mengingatkan ataupun memberi pandangan. So
cuma tuanku mungkin akan ada, kalau boleh Batik tanya, slightly delicate question. So, mungkin akan ada yang bercakap, okay, kalau keluarga diraja nak memberi pandangan, maka mereka juga perlu menerima apabila pandangan itu dikritik atau pandangan itu tidak disetujui oleh rakyat biasa. Is that okay?
But we have been, how long have I been critic? Anything happen? I don't see anything happening. So I'm open to be criticized. Saya open, you know. And
do you read the stuff, tuanku? Tuanku baca tak benda-benda yang
sometimes not read all, tetapi of course we have a team that inform sentiment on the grounds and things like that. So sentimental punya studies, kita ada team yang monitor everything. Jadi I don't usually read all, but I think it is also important. Saya rasa mustahak untuk tahulah what is the current sentiment on the ground. And I mean, itu adalah pandangan saya. Dan to be criticized, I've been criticized many times, daripada ahli politik lah, dalam bola lah, macam-macam. And I'm very open. But like I said, what is right lah. So rakyat boleh menilai benda tu berdasarkan dengan fakta, bukan dengan cerita dongeng. Tetapi kalau ada orang nak dengar cerita dongeng lebih daripada fakta, then it's up to you. This is where I say it goes back to education, which is I feel yang benda paling mustahak that we lack in this country today.
Tuanku maybe address the perception. Kalau criticize tuanku lah ataupun kerabat diraja, kereta petrol car akan sampai kat rumah.
I don't think so, right? Jadi ke tidak benda tu? I mean, if you maki Amon and you threaten, of course there will be a petrol car coming to your house. But if you criticize, I don't think anything ever happened before. Tak pernah berlaku. For example, cucu atuk dulu pernah criticize openly. Buat press conference lagi. Tak ada apa-apa jadi kat dia pun sampai hari ni. So banyak orang yang criticize and nothing happened, right? Unless ada ugutan ataupun ada memaki Hamon, which is considered as seditious. So that is within the law. Tetapi bila saya criticize, contoh apabila saya criticize, I don't think saya pergi keterlaluan. It's more memberi pandangan, the basic asas. Serve the people. Over and over again I've been saying the same thing, benda yang sama. Ingat kepentingan rakyat. Saya rasa benda itu tak salah. Itu ada cara saya mengingatkan.
Jadi tuanku akan terus vokal. Tuanku
100%.
Ditakdirkan insya-Allah pemangku raja nanti, you will still be open and forthright.
I mean, if I see everything is okay, I'm not going to say anything. Saya tak akan cakap apa-apa. Tetapi kalau saya nampak ada sesuatu yang perlu saya memberi pandangan ataupun tegur, saya akan buat. Itu sudah tentu. Time has changed, YB. You know, time has changed. If you look dalam senario dalam country pun dah berubah. So we have to go according to time.
Tuanku, just masih lagi cakap pasal politik ni. Tuanku rasa puas hati ke tidak dengan this new generation of politician? Kita tolak ke tepi lah PMX. Ya, kita bukan nak kata kita tolak dia ke tepi sekarang. Tapi dia 76 years old. So kita nak kena fikir soal the next generation. Tuanku rasa...
See sir, I tell you, it's about qualification. Kelayakan. Contoh, if you are young and you are more of a populist, ataupun bercakapkan dengan berdasarkan teori sahaja, but not practical of what actually can work, apa benda yang boleh work on the ground, then you shouldn't be in politics. But for example, you both are very intelligent, qualified. I think people like you should be in in politics.
Kena buang.
Yalah. Tapi bagi saya pun yang ada yang lama-lama tu, yang masa still hold on to power tu pun dah terlebih lama sangat. Bukan saja nak katakan dengan usia, tetapi pandangan yang lebih taklah begitu relating to the current scenario of what the country is going on today. So of course we need younger people serving the government or even in politics. But not only berdasarkan dengan usia, and of course it has to be merit as well lah. Kelayakan dan yang ada potential.
Dalam konteks usia dan merit, Yang Ahmad Mohamad Menteri Besar Johor sendiri seorang yang generasi yang muda.
Very young.
If I can ask a naughty question, how do you rate his performance?
His performance.
Dato' On Hafiz.
7 or 8. 7. I give him a 7.
7 out of 10.
Out of 10.
That's not bad.
That's not bad.
Okay, I bring it down to 6.
Ada dia marah gitu pula.
I bring it down to 6. Why? Because he's still young. Tetapi bagusnya dia buat kerja. Buat kerja. But then, like I said, walaupun kita ada macam-macam perancangan, I will also work very closely with him untuk execute certain matters dalam negeri yang saya rasa ada beberapa isu yang kita terlepas pandang ataupun tak put the right effort untuk selesaikan isu-isu tersebut. So yeah, I give him a 6 or 7. He's young, still have long way to go.
Macam mana peralihan tu tuanku, sebab ramai yang tertanya-tanya pelantikan Dato' On Hafiz sebagai Menteri Besar.
Saya ketua penerangan UMNO waktu tu kempen sebagai apa ni?
I think it was a way Kebahduli tuanku nak menunjukkan janganlah ketepikan pandangan dia ataupun yang melantik Menteri Besar ni adalah raja. Apabila awak endorse seseorang, seolah-olah you are playing
poster boy.
Buat poster boy masa tu Datuk Asni. And he was Kebahduli tuanku was upset dengan Datuk Zahid ketika itu. Awak patut refer kepada saya dulu. Siapa yang saya rasa harus jadi Menteri Besar? And I think that was his way of reminding those up there yang do not challenge his authority sebagai raja yang memilih Menteri Besar.
Tuanku, balik kepada politik Melayu ni, tuanku. UMNO dilahirkan di Istana Besar di Johor Bahru. Tuanku rasa UMNO ni ada future, tuanku? Sorry, aku terpaksa tanya soalan ni.
Old UMNO kan?
Ya. Bukan UMNO baru.
Bukan UMNO.
UMNO asal 1946.
Tun Mahathir created.
Ya.
I feel as a strong Malay party, UMNO ada asas. You have the foundation already. Tetapi perlu ada orang-orang yang lebih quality dalam UMNO. That is my pandangan lah. Because now you asking me about UMNO. So saya rasa mesti ada orang-orang yang lebih someone who can bring a different dynamic yang mana boleh relate to the current scenario of the country today. And future ada, tetapi some people have to go maybe for that, untuk ada masa depan. Kalau masih dengan sistem yang begitu lama macam sekarang, I don't think UMNO have future dalam negara unless they change. That is pandangan saya lah.
Saya rasa dalam konteks UMNO pun, UMNO Johor pun kadang-kadang dia melihat dirinya sedikit berbeza daripada UMNO secara keseluruhan, almost mirroring this Johor-Malaysia relationship that you stressed about. Mungkin apa yang tuanku sebut tu ada bibit-bibitnya daripada Johor sendirilah.
Of course. But macam I have good relationship dengan semua political party. PKR, DAP, semua. Semua boleh berjumpa saya dekat sini, boleh minum kopi, boleh berkongsi pandangan. Contoh kadang-kadang katalah kawasan DAP pun, Kebahduli tuanku memberi sumbangan. Tengokkan rakyat. Macam gitu. Sampai gitu sekali. That is how the unique relationship yang kita ada dalam negeri Johor. Kalau kita tengok pun inside our Dewan Negeri, I think it's the most civilized Dewan Negeri in the whole country.
Berarti setuju dekat Johor ni dia punya dynamic lain sikit about the other parties. But tuanku, sebab tuanku dah sebut pasal DAP ni. Di Johor mungkin lain. Di Johor ada sedikit keterbukaan untuk melihat DAP ni sebagai sebahagian daripada political process. Negeri lain juga, tetapi masih lagi di kalangan orang Melayu ni dia ada fobia tentang DAP ni. What do you think of DAP, tuanku?
Well, I think berdasarkan dengan parti ni, saya suka lebih menilaikan dengan, macam contoh Hanayo. I think she's superb. Pasal she's just someone who focus on a job, and apabila ada kerja, dia fokus on buat kerja. Sama juga macam Cintong. Tetapi yang lain-lain saya tak kenal. So as a party, I don't think saya boleh cakap whether they are relevant or whether they are good. It's not my place, because I only know very few individual daripada parti tersebut. Sama juga macam PKR, sama juga macam UMNO. And I feel mana-mana political party pun dalam negara, benda yang paling penting macam mana yang saya katakan tadi adalah keutamaan tu harus bagi kepada how can they serve the people. Apa benda-benda yang pembaruan yang mereka boleh buat di mana rakyat will benefit. So to be honest, I do not care which political party you come from, as long as you can serve the people, you can get the job done, then you deserve to be there. Awak layak berada di situ. That is me lah, pandangan saya.
Okay, mungkin on that, sir, we take a break. We'll come back after this. Thank you.
Selamat kembali ke episod khas Keluar Sekejap. KJ, kita dah banyak bincang bersama dengan tuanku berkenaan dengan pandangan tentang Malaysia, tentang Johor, tentang bagaimana prestasi ahli-ahli politik dan sistem politik. Tapi mungkin salah satu tema yang kita nak bawa sekarang ni adalah peranan monarki itu sendiri, which I think we've touched a bit, sir, but maybe a bit more.
Tuanku, Malaysia adalah negara raja berperlembagaan, constitutional monarchy. Raja merupakan payung asas negara, pelindung bangsa dan juga ketua agama. Relevance of the monarchy today, sir. Dan patut tanya ni sebab ramai yang kata, macam mana institusi raja relevan kepada saya pada hari ini?
Soalan tu pun pernah ditanya kepada saya oleh one of mahasiswa from UTHM. Pun pernah tanya saya, is it still relevant to ada sistem raja? In my opinion, not because saya ni seorang raja, I feel yes. Because you see, minta maaf lah today, okay? No disrespect to any politicians.
Yes, sir.
We're out for now. We're not politicians now.
Today. Because if, let's say, this country go really, really haywire, more kepada to the right side of extremists dan seterusnya, I don't think any politician will tentang benda itu. Kerana they need the numbers. Dia perlukan the numbers, dia perlukan rating, dia perlu the support. Tetapi, us who doesn't need the numbers, memberi kita satu platform, a foundation di mana kita boleh memberi pandangan kami tanpa being a populist ataupun popularity ataupun dengan rasa takut ada rakyat tersinggung atau tidak. Tetapi apa yang kami rasa bagus untuk negara. Now kalau kita tengok pun 2018 masa kerajaan shift, Johor was going through a lot in terms of economy, was going so bad. Saya bagi contoh hospital Sultanah Aminah. One of the ICU terbakar. Kebah rili tuanku yang pakai duit sendiri untuk memperbaiki that particular section. Sama juga macam rumah-rumah mampu milik dan seterusnya. So bagi saya, sistem raja ni, monarki ni still relevant. Tetapi we also have to change our ways. Ini pandangan saya, minta maaf.
Lighthouse, sir.
Get closer to the people. Bukan setakat attendance ataupun appearance atau cara majlis yang lebih official. Tidak. Go down. Cakap. Saya suka dengan cara santai. Contoh, katakanlah saya pergi Kota Tinggi ataupun saya pergi visit mana-mana daerah. Saya suka duduk dekat warung-warung dengan pakcik-pakcik, tanya, pakcik macam mana kat sini? Saya suka bertanya. Pasal saya sendiri nak tahu macam mana saya boleh membantu mereka. So this is where kami mesti ada lebih engagement dengan rakyat. Ini pandangan saya. Kerana kalau ada jauh sangat gap, of course saya tak salahkan mana rakyat yang rasa yang we are not doing enough. Because they don't know what's going on. Macam contoh, if I don't have this way of having this podcast today with you, ataupun saya tak lantang bersuara ataupun educate the people apa peranan kami ataupun apa sumbangan yang kami dah beri kepada rakyat, rakyat tak akan tahu. So that is why saya rasa the engagement is very important to maintain perhubungan-perhubungan yang lebih rapat, lebih approachable. Saya suka macam gitu kerana saya dididik oleh almarhum Sultan Iskandar macam gitu. Kebawah Duli Tuanku mendidik saya pun macam gitu. Kebawah Duli Tuanku pun sama, suka pergi kampung-kampung, duduk, not just tunggu semasa kembara mahkota baru kita nak jumpa rakyat. Bila-bila boleh jumpa. So Kebawah Duli kerap macam contoh duduk di Muar ataupun duduk di Keluang ataupun duduk di Segamat 3, 4 ataupun 5 hari. Duduk pergi memantau dan tengok sendiri apa masalah apa yang rakyat tengah melalui, dan juga beri mereka peluang untuk berduduk sama. Because sometimes kalau kita buat official ni, rakyat nak mengadu ni dia rasa segan ataupun rasa takut. So saya suka when what I do when there's no camera. I prefer that way. That is saya punya cara of being more, ada more engagement dengan rakyat. And I feel the modern day monarch, bagi pandangan saya lah, semua ada cara tersendiri. Saya menghormati mereka semua ada cara-cara tersendiri. But kalau saya can give satu suggestion, pandangan, that will be, we have to be closer to the people.
Tuanku rasa nilai itu penting untuk seorang raja,
of course,
iaitu sentiasa bersama dengan rakyat, ataupun raja ni ada di istana saja.
Kebawah Duli almarhum atuk saya used to say this. Tak semua yang pakai mahkota itu raja. I never understand that until
tak semua yang pakai mahkota
tak
itu
semua
raja.
yang ada mahkota atas kepala itu raja.
Ya.
Raja berdasarkan kepada tindakan-tindakan. Apa yang kita buat. Apa our sacrifices for the people. Turun lebih rapat lagi dengan rakyat. Has that sense of care. Like for example, Tuanku Permaisuri, my mother, she's done exceptional for the people of Johor. And saya dengan isteri pun, we try to, apa yang kami dah dididik, apa yang Kebawah Duli Tuanku ataupun Tuanku Permaisuri show us, we also try to do the same or even better. Dan juga belajar daripada situ. So for me, raja ni is berdasarkan kepada niat tu dan juga tanggungjawab and your sacrifices and how you serve your people. Itu adalah pandangan saya lah. Kalau duduk di istana je, then what, I mean, saya tak salahkan siapa-siapa kalau cakap kita tak relevan.
Balik kepada poin pertama tuanku. Tuanku rasa institusi raja ni check and balance.
Of course. Of course it provide check and balance. Kalau tak ada, I think you will have a dictator in Malaysia lah. Yes, because today you can easily control someone by main dengan sentiment religion. Contoh, menggunakan agama to taikkan sokongan rakyat. So sentiment itu. So that is why saya cakap we are the only one that provide check and balance, mustahak peranan-peranan sistem raja dalam negara ni.
Tapi kalau Patik boleh tanya sikit. Kalau dia berjaya menarik sokongan walaupun dengan agama, tetapi dalam demokrasi itu memang hak dia lah.
Yalah, of course, of course. But you see, it's to provide more check and balance in terms of membuat keputusan. So, like contoh, katakanlah keputusan betul dan harus dibuat, tetapi it's not that popular. I don't think any politician will do it because dia fikirkan kepada sokongan dia.
Okay.
Right? So at least we can, walaupun kita tak boleh buat that keputusan, tetapi kita boleh share pandangan atau memberi a bit check and balance in a way. Perhubungan antara kita dengan ahli politik tersebut. Hey, why don't you do something like this, gini-gini, and tengok whether we can come up with something yang more relevant di mana rakyat boleh terima. Daripada than just say, okay, semua orang tak suka ni, tetapi walaupun benda ni bagus, and we're not going to go with it because you need the numbers of support. And to me that's not good.
Tuanku, KJ dengan saya selalu mengejek satu sama sendiri siapa lebih Anglicized, siapa lebih suka UK antara kita dua. United Kingdom. So to bring it back to that, tuanku pun belajar di Perth, where the head of state adalah King of England. Mendengar penjelasan tuanku bagaimana monarki di sini adalah check and balance, I think you will agree, sir, kalau di sana mereka tak menganggap check and balance, dia lebih seremonial. Apa pada pandangan tuanku, study politics in both countries, apa yang membezakan? Kenapa di sini kita perlukan check and balance? Adakah quality politician di sana lebih bagus?
I don't think so. I think there's a respect between the monarch in England and also the Prime Minister and also the government. And of course, apabila dia memberi dia punya pandangan, that particular pandangan diambil serious kerana of how long they have served the nation. Sama. But sistem, kalau kita tengok sistem beraja di Middle East pula, lain. A completely different ball
absolute
game.
Monarchy.
Exactly. And dia juga same goes with Brunei. Well, bagi saya dia tengok kepada, it depends on the culture and the, what do you call it, the mentality and the mindset of those particular country, because tak semua negara sama. Tak semua negara sama.
Tuanku, kita dah banyak cerita tentang peranan raja dan the future of the monarchy, dan tuanku pun telah memberi satu, not justification but very robust defense of the royal institution. Tuanku, maybe soalan ataupun perbincangan ni agak sensitif, tetapi tuanku rasa tuanku unik dalam hal ini because di kalangan the new generation of rulers.
Apa dia lagi sekali?
Unik dalam erti kata
do the other share
am I different?
Yeah. You know, we have to earn the trust of the people. Jangan duduk di istana. Ini cara baru. Kita tak boleh above politics, tapi we have to care about the issues.
So we can be above politics, but ada juga isu-isu yang kami harus sentuh ataupun share our input. Kan itu adalah hak masing-masing. Semua orang ada hak masing-masing. Everybody have rights. Do I feel that I'm unique amongst the rest? I think yes, because I bring a completely different dynamic altogether. I mean, it will get quite bored without me juga.
Tuanku, do you see yourself as a disruptor in the royal space?
Maybe ada yang kurang rasa senang dengan saya because of my way of thinking, my mindset. Maybe I am not as old school ataupun orthodox. Kalau nak bandingkan dengan tradisi, I still maintain tradition. I still hormat tradition and protocol. Cuma saya rasa dalam segi bekerja perlu ada a different way of doing things. Buat benda yang agak berbeza, di mana you can relate to this particular modern time.
You know, tuanku, ada satu soalan yang saya tak pernah tanya tuanku. Hari ni kali pertama yang saya tanya, sedang dirakam. Beberapa bulan yang lepas, tak ada siapa yang nak sentuh saya. Waktu saya dipecat daripada parti. No one wanted to touch me, tuanku. Syariah lah. Dia pun digantung. Yalah, kena pecat. Dah tak menang pilihan raya. Dibuang lah lebih kurang, tuanku. Begitu. Tetapi tuanku tampil. Saya tak minta, Patik tak minta masa tu. Tuanku yang menghubungi Patik dan menawarkan kepada Patik peranan di sini sebagai penasihat belia negeri Johor dan dengan JDT. Tuanku tak perlu buat benda tu. And saya ni agak toxic, masih toxic mungkin. Why, tuanku?
Because I see, to be honest lah, I see you have potential. And it's one way to keep you relevant. Dengan ada that particular sentiasa ada engagement dengan rakyat in whatever platform for that matter. Dan that was my way untuk menunjuk pucuk kepimpinan parti tersebut yang saya tak setuju dengan keputusan beliau. That was my way of showing support, and I don't agree dengan apa yang dilakukan, tindakan tersebut, tetapi it's not my place. I'm not in politics. But that is my way of showing support. Because you need good people running this country today, especially with times like this. And that was the reason why I do it. And plus, of course, friendship. We are friends. I mean, I'm a soldier. I never leave a man behind. That has always been saya punya prinsip. I never leave a man behind regardless. If you're my friend and you're in trouble, I will always be there. That is saya punya sikap. Dan good times or bad times, doesn't matter. I'm still going to be your friend. Itu cara saya. That is my way.
You juga say tuanku, stay proud, stay airborne. So
Yes.
okay, we'll take a break and then come back, sir. Perhaps the last segment, bola sepak, future of JDT. Sure. And maybe something international.
Yeah,
something international, Johor and Singapore. Yeah, that's it. Kembali ke episod khas Keluar Sekejap bersama dengan Tengku Mahkota Johor, Tengku Ismail. Tuanku, tahniah 10 kali berturut-turut Liga Super, dan insyaAllah kejayaan menanti di Piala Malaysia nanti, insyaAllah. Dan juga kita harap keputusan yang baik di AFC Champions League, ACL nanti. Adakah tuanku akan boleh memikirkan satu ketika when you will be bored of football, dah menang segala-galanya, dan ramai yang sebenarnya penyokong Johor, bangsa Johor risau, sebab dia risau satu hari nanti tuanku TMJ akan bangun pagi dan dia akan bosan dengan bola sepak and leave football.
I do not know, but maybe that time will come. I mean, there will always be an ending to a story, right? Ataupun a destination in the journey. I mean, I cannot be in football forever. Memang saya ada the passion in terms of football. Saya ada the passion, saya ada semangat dan juga minat dalam sukan tersebut. But there will be one day that I might say, hey, it's enough. Because to be honest, sebenarnya tekanan dalam segi kewangan sangat-sangat berat dalam bola sepak, especially in this region, dalam negara kita ni. Contoh, Kedah, 3 months no salary. Sabah tak bayar gaji. Kelantan tak bayar gaji. Sarawak tak bayar gaji. So, memang bukan mudah untuk jaga a club bola sepak, because you put in a lot of money but benefit dia sikit aja. Dalam segi tiket, merchandise, and also sponsorship. Even though Johor banyak international companies, collaboration dan juga sponsorship, tapi still we struggle, and sometimes when we struggle, saya dan Kebahaduli tuanku terpaksa
keluar duit sendiri.
Dan kadang-kala benda tu is quite frustrating. Frustrating because I like the idea of JDT. Menyatu padukan rakyat, give us a sense of belonging untuk boast where we come from, identity negeri Johor itu sendiri. Dalam pesat antarabangsa, in international level. But dalam segi tanggungjawab, it's quite stressful. It's quite stressful because looking after a football club, it's like, especially when you have a team, it's like looking after 32 rich babies. Spoiled brats. I'm being open. I don't care kalau mana-mana pemain saya nak terasa, I really don't care. That's the truth. It is never enough. They always want more and more and more. And there come a time, that sometimes tak puas hati dengan ni lah. You see, on the surface, every single club looks good. But behind closed door, kerja dia bukan senang. How do I make sure a guy like Syafiq Rahim ataupun a guy like Fernando Forestieri or a guy like Farizal Malias, who has won so much, duit pun dah banyak, kejayaan macam-macam, tetapi the hunger of bermain dan rasa mereka tak pernah menang sesuatu ataupun tak pernah ada pencapaian, I think I must be good to keep that fire burning. Because kalau tidak, pemain-pemain can just say, okay, kita dapat duit kita tiap bulan, and so what? I'm not going to break my leg. I've won so much already. So it's how saya punya character somehow provide that urge of professionalism, ingin sesuatu, kejayaan, and it's never enough. So that is why where we are. JDT is where we are today. Tetapi like you said tadi about that day that satu hari saya tak ada bola, tak ada dalam bola sepak, maybe yes. But I own the club. So I kind of technically speaking, I cannot run away from it.
Yeah.
Cuma saya maybe boleh less hands-on lah. Macam sekarang ni, I'm super hands-on about everything. So maybe I want to be a bit less hands-on, let everybody else run the club.
So are you capable of that?
Or any other sport? Any other sport that...
But before that, are you capable of it?
I don't think so.
I've seen you.
I don't think
you're asking the coach, pemain mana, siapa.
Yeah, and you know, my brother, I told my brother also that kalau satu hari ni, and my brother said, no, I don't think you can do it. I think if they lose one match, you'll be back. And it's true.
Yeah.
It's true.
Yeah. Tuanku, sebelum nak pergi ke sukan lain, sebab Syarif ni dia penyokong sukan kriket. He's a Newcastle fan. Newcastle fan. So
I'm a Newcastle fan and a cricket fan.
I see.
But before that, sir, apa ni? How do you keep? Macam mana semangat berjuang, hunger tu masih lagi ada? Yeah. Sir, Johor is there. I mean, you know, with Thai clubs, Indonesian clubs. You know, JDT is.
I think it's the best today in terms
Asia.
of commercially speaking, infrastructure dan seterusnya. I think we're the best in Southeast Asia.
But the gulf with Japan, with Korea, with the Middle East.
Maybe that takes time.
Okay.
We are not there yet.
Yeah.
Because they have started the project berpuluh tahun ataupun berbelas tahun sebelum kita. What I did was 2013. What Urawa Reds have been doing was since the 90s.
That's right.
So jadi dalam segi performance, dalam segi program akaumbi, sikap profesionalisme, diet, we are not there. We are still far away. Hari tu orang semua kecewa kita kalah 3-1 dengan the Korean team. Saya pergi sana with the open heart of, bukan nak cakap saya tak percaya kepada pasukan saya percaya we will fight, we will definitely give a fight. Tetapi saya punya harapan tu taklah begitu tinggi. So when we lost, I'm like, okay, we lost. But the idea is to be in that particular competition every year because Johor's name is with those elite team, the best in Asia, and just be there and try to compete the best we can. So saya tak nampak kekalahan di ACL sebagai satu kegagalan. I just see it as a hiccup. And next year we're going to be there again. And we're going to do our best. Tetapi, if you say whether we are ready to compete with Japan and all that, yes. I mean, we give Kawasaki a good run. 1-0 kalah. Yeah. And kita draw tahun lepas dengan dia. Kita beat Ulsan Hyundai 2-1 2 kali. And now kita kalah dengan dia 3-1. So, we are not pasukan belasahan. We can compete.
Yeah.
We can compete. And, so I think we are on the right track dalam bola sepak where we are today.
And Tuanku still going to be committed until you win the ACL?
100. I want to be able to reach quarter final. That's my dream.
Okay.
Kalau dapat quarter final, to me it's satu pencapaian yang luar biasa. Because saya ni realistic. I know saya tahu di mana kedudukan kami. Saya ni tak reti berangan. Okay. But if you see also what I did with JDT dalam segi that winning mentality and everything, it has also became a domino effect terhadap sukan-sukan lain pun. Macam kita tengok di Johor. Today, a few weeks ago, MSSM, we won. So kalau kita tengok kita punya Sukma pun, we did very, very well. Last year, we won everything. And you see Farhan, a professional tinju boxer here. You see now we have ice hockey. Kita dah melibatkan diri kita dengan now motor racing. So I mean it is that competitiveness punya attitude of tak berpuas hati, tak rasa selesa. To be honest with you, the only thing that keeps me going sebenarnya adalah saya punya competitor ataupun penyokong-penyokong yang kurang arif minta maaf.
Yeah.
But that is what keeps this fire burning.
Yeah.
Because when I consider you as my enemy, I want to make sure you are frustrated. That is my attitude lah. Kalau kita ni musuh, I want to beat you every year. That is what keeps saya punya fire burning. And without them, tanpa mereka, tanpa penyokong-penyokong ataupun all this, they call it the haters and whatnot, I think saya dah lama tak ada dalam bola dah. Because there is no competition. These people with their disbelief, dengan tak percaya, dengan memperlekehkan projek JDT, that I thank them because kerana mereka lah, saya ni masih feel that competitiveness of wanting to do even more. So yeah.
Haters motivate you, Tuanku?
Yes, a lot. A lot. Because I post a picture of me in 2013 or 2014 in my cafe near my garage. Kat belakang tu ada gambar tulis, "May my haters live long to see my success." And I think that is just saya punya personality.
No.
I just want to win. I just hate losing. I want to win and I want to do well. And every time I do well, saya rasa it is a great achievement, but it is also saya dapat tunjuk kepada so-called haters ni lah that, hey, you see where I am now? You see where this club I created, where are we? Have you seen the achievement, our achievement, apa yang kita ada? That boasting right keeps the fire burning. Yes.
Yeah. But saya pun setuju dengan Tuanku. I'm also motivated by detractors dalam politik, Tuanku. Tapi tak saya rasa sama juga dengan Tuanku. It's not revenge per se.
No, it's not revenge.
Yeah, to show that we can perform and succeed.
It is just being a winner.
Yeah.
I mean, if not, what is life? It would be very boring kan. Walaupun kita katakanlah orang meniaga ke, orang politik ke, seorang tentera ke, you always want to do better.
Yeah.
Because that I mean, every character, right? That is just being a winner. And that is how saya dididik. And I guess you are the same as well. You want to win, you want to do well. Semua orang want to do well. Everybody wants to do well. Yeah.
Only I'm not doing so well now, Tuanku. Anyway, cakap soal persaingan, Tuanku. Ini satu topik yang Syahrir dan saya rasa penting untuk kita bincang dan bahas bersama dengan Tuanku. Hubungan Malaysia dan hubungan Johor dengan jiran kita, Singapura.
Saya tak tahu apa hubungan Malaysia, tetapi hubungan Johor dengan Singapura sangat baik.
Ya.
Sangat-sangat baik. Daripada dulu, daripada zaman atuk moyang saya dah begitu rapat dengan Singapura.
Singapura, Tuanku, dilihat sebagai jiran, sebagai pesaing, competitor, neighbor, collaborator kadang-kadang. Dan nak tanya, how does Tuanku and how does Johor view Singapore? Because Singapore is closer to JB than KL.
Of course.
So it's symbiotic. Beratusan ribu yang cross tambak Johor setiap hari.
We have to coexist. And at the same time, saya tak nampak mereka sebagai competitor. I see them as a friend. Dan juga whatever system they have today dalam negara dia, kita tidak boleh ignore ataupun cakap yang they're not doing the right thing. The quality control when I have my engagement with ministers ataupun mana-mana government official dalam Singapore, to see that qualification, that knowledge and that professionalism dalam setiap agensi, I envy that. I want to see that here. Jadi buat masa ni saya tak pernah tengok mereka sebagai competitor. I see them as a platform that I want to reach. Memang betul negara dia lagi kecil, senang jaga dan seterusnya.
Demokrasi dia lain sikit.
Demokrasi dia lain. That saya faham. Tetapi in terms of policy, it's bukan nak kata stability, that policy is strong. Macam kalau kita tomorrow you have a different party jadi kerajaan, policy will change.
Policy consistency
exactly.
In Singapore.
It's very consistent kalau kita tengok di Singapura. Tetapi kita, that policy berubah, and that affects the economy dalam negara because kita tak memberi siapa-siapa keyakinan untuk melabur dalam negara because they scared. Okay, we are going to put in how many billions or hundreds of millions in Malaysia, and tomorrow you have a new prime minister with different priorities, keutamaan yang lain, and juga policy. Game over.
Ya, aku.
So, jadi saya envy tengok macam mana how Singapore does things. Macam contoh management of water pun. They're doing well, walaupun and they can sustain, and so I like to see that professionalism punya attitude.
Mungkin tuanku juga lihat mutu dan kualiti mereka yang ada dalam public life di Singapura lebih baik berbanding dengan apa yang berlaku di Malaysia. Ataupun is that too controversial to say?
No, I don't think so. But if you see today, they cannot live. I mean, in Singapore, it's too expensive, right?
Yeah.
Terlampau mahal sangat. So that is why they come here always to Johor. I do not know whether dia orang punya mutu kehidupan. Maybe we have a larger population. Kita pun
No, I meant the quality of people in public office. Do you think it's so much better there compared to
Quality of politicians.
honestly, yes. Yes.
Why do you think education is that?
Education, of course. Education. Tengoklah dia orang. Macam contoh, dia punya Perdana Menteri boleh cakap bahasa Melayu, bahasa Melayu, bahasa English, Chinese and everything.
PM kita pun boleh kat tu.
I don't know what he can speak.
Tapi aku Patik
But education lah.
Yeah.
But it all goes back to education.
yeah. But tuanku Singaporean politicians macam Patik punya counterpart dulu. Yeah, of course top education, top qualification, scholar, soldier, brigadier general dan sebagainya. Tetapi di sana tuanku, they are shielded from the real cut and thrust of politics. Bukan nak kata diorang ni tak ada demokrasi, tapi macam Batik katalah, it's different.
Very different.
Dan PAP pun ada danger, ada bahayanya kalau sekiranya mereka tak relatable dengan orang biasa dekat Singapore. As tuanku said, inflation is so high, housing prices are so high. The party is not, the party as in the fund is not going to last forever, sir.
Yeah.
No pun intended. The party is not going to last forever, sir.
Yeah.
So things will also change in Singapore.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Of course.
Tapi balik kepada hubungan Johor dan Singapura, not just the history, sir, but masa depan juga. Kita tahu ada perancangan untuk special financial zone di Forest City.
The new economic zone.
Betul, the special economic zone juga. Any thoughts tuanku? Sebab saya nampak belum ada butiran lagi.
Of course, benda tu masih dalam perancangan yang awal, tetapi harus dilaksanakan. Especially I think even though the RTS punya development project ni will be a game changer. Because today Singapore pun risau selepas COVID. Orang Johor walaupun gaji yang mereka pay in Singapore itu besar, orang tak nak pergi, orang takut. Takut apa-apa berlaku tak dapat balik.
Tutup balik.
So they don't want to work. So Singapore now is actually shortage of staff, even though nurses di hospital pun
Betul.
they have a shortage.
Sampai dia ambil orang kita.
Exactly. So, but I think it will be a game changer with this RTS in terms of the economy of Johor will boom, but also that also will give Singapore advantage of people crossing over, rakyat kita dan juga rakyat dia.
Tuanku almarhum had a dream and was facilitated by Tun Abdullah Iskandar. That was to have this seamless symbiotic relationship between Singapura dan juga Johor, wilayah Iskandar dan sebagainya. Tuanku sebut RTS, Patik juga nak melihat projek-projek lain macam HSR dan juga seamless border tuanku. Mungkin satu hari nanti tak payah pasport. Just keluar masuk macam pergi daripada Perancis ke Jerman. Is that what tuanku nak melihat?
Yes, I would like to see that because I think that will help a lot.
And maybe you can start with the SEZ, SFZ kalau tidak semua pun sebagai permulaan.
That is why I think the economic zone we have to wait and make sure that kicked off really well. But you see, I feel federal also need to change lah pada masa akan datang. Federal government.
Tuanku simpan last ni.
No, tak, bukan simpan last. Taxes.
Yeah.
You see, other state, I don't know. Yalah, I speak on behalf of Johor kan. Macam contoh, at least they should be an arrangement ataupun an understanding between federal government dengan state government of us at least boleh simpan 10 ataupun 20% of the taxes that goes to the federal level. Because macam contoh, katakanlah kita perlu pakai kewangan in any aspect for that matter, dia akan beri kita at least kemudahan di mana kita boleh berdiri dengan kaki sendiri, tak adalah minta permohonan. That permohonan, contoh permohonan Hospital Sultanah Aminah, dah 5 tahun dah 6 tahun dah. So this is where sometimes saya pun sebagai Tengku Mahkota Johor is quite frustrated dengan federal government regardless of who's in power, because daripada dulu memang begitu. So if you at least, kalau kita boleh simpan our kewangan, because we giving you 100% of our taxes, at least simpan sikit untuk kurangkan beban kita. And then of course still we still need the federal punya help and support, sudah tentu. I think it will be a win-win situation bagi pandangan saya. Sustainability di negeri, bukan saja mungkin di negeri ini, mungkin negeri-negeri lain pun sama. Because sekarang ni our main issue di negeri ni is that money that is given back. You imagine, contoh saya bagi 48 billion of duit negeri Johor bagi kepada federal, ni pulangan balik 1.6 to 2 billion, nak kena jaga 4.8 million Johorians. Macam mana?
Ini pandangan peribadi Batik lah tuanku.
Yeah.
Kita sistem persekutuan, federal system, dan sejak penumbuhan Malaysia kita mengamalkan benda yang sama. Tapi I don't know, Syahril, I feel I'm a strong believer in more devolution. Sebab bila kita devolve, sekarang ni kita dah devolve dengan Sabah Sarawak, and we should bring some of that spirit of devolution. Kalau tak ikut exactly apa yang tuanku minta tadi, but at least to empower the states and state rights beyond apa yang ada tertulis dalam perlembagaan persekutuan.
Like in America,
yeah,
like United States,
yeah,
sama.
Tapi I think what KJ was saying, tuanku, lebih daripada apa yang is allowed or afforded to win currently.
A new model of devolution.
Sebab tuanku, untuk makluman, KJ nak bertanding jadi Datuk Bandar Kuala Lumpur. So even devolution in KL pun dia nak juga. So this is not just Johor.
Because tuanku, some problems are solved at the federal level.
Obviously.
But a lot of problems are solved at the local level.
Of course.
Especially PBT, state government. Masalah harian lah tuanku.
Yes.
So I think devolution,
especially when pemusatan kuasa is proven to not be able to solve many of these.
Yeah.
Pemusatan kuasa was a thing in the 80s, 90s, Tun Mahathir, strongman. But now times have changed.
That's why I said everything must change in the future, because time has changed. Every single thing, whether it's system monarchy ke, whether it's the federal government ke, even politics, everything must change according to time.
Yeah.
Because we are beyond that.
Tuanku, menjunjung kasih. It's been a privilege, honor to have this discussion bersama dengan tuanku. Tuanku ada apa-apa last word ke nak tanya kami soalan yang benda ke?
Since Syahril is a cricket punya fan,
Yes,
no, talking about Johor dengan Singapore punya relationship ni, Johor ada kita ada every year we play cricket Singapore, cricket Johor called the Saudara Cup.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I mean this is all antara kita punya initiative to keep that relationship going. In fact,
where do you play? Both sides? Or?
Both sides. So now we have school going there. They have their school. They send their school to do some program here with us. Because, I mean, hari tu masa one of the orang punya government official tanya saya macam mana lagi kita boleh eratkan lagi perhubungan ini, saya said that you must understand, you have to get to know your neighbor.
People to
because,
people.
Yeah, because we were too close, but you have no idea what's going on in Johor. The Johorian tak tahu what the hell is going on in Singapore. So I think that is the only way to break that boundary. Well, but anyway, thank you so much for having me here in this podcast. I really enjoy it.
Thank you for having us here.
Terima kasih tuanku. Here, we are in Istana Bukit Seri right now. Ini bukan sofa biasa keluar sekejap. Can we take this back, tuanku?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Tengku Mahkota Johor, menjunjung kasih. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.